This is On Target with Penny Wolfgang, a program that takes an inside look at what is happening in Western New York with news, features, and special guests. Now, here's your host, Penny Wolfgang.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to On Target with your host, Penny Wolfgang. We're here every week, and we talk about subjects that we think are important and interesting and topical for all of us who live here in the Western New York community. So I don't know if there's anybody out here who's listening that hasn't gone through a moving crisis, a downsizing crisis, or moving to a different area, or moving to a assisted living place, or moving to a ranch house, or from a big house. All of these examples, everybody I know, including myself, has been through this, and it's so wonderful to know that there is somebody out there who can help you through what is really a crisis period in your life, I found out. And she is the most, calming influence type person, the most laid-back, helpful, wonderful person, Christina Apt. And Christina is the founder of an organization called The Next Chapter, and under it says, moving you and your memories with care. And that really explains a lot, I think. And Christina, I was telling you, welcome to the show, but I was telling you that a very dear friend of ours and of people here at Odyssey is Michael Bellani. And Michael, I hope he's listening. We got to tell him to listen, okay?
He listens every week,
so
no
I have
doubt.
to tell him that he recently made this big move back to the city, and he sent out, kind of a rundown about what happened, that moving from his large suburban home to a smaller condo in Buffalo. And he gave all the credit and all the help to you, and he said he couldn't have done it without you, right? My business associate and friend offers services that make life easier on both ends of my move, he said. So shout out to Michael Bellani, and more importantly, shout out to you for making people's lives easier. It must be very rewarding. Is it rewarding for you?
It's beyond rewarding. It reminds me about what's really important in life, about being supportive of each other in times of really stress and crisis. As you said, there's that ideal that there are 4 or 5 life events that can put you over the edge. Giving birth, getting married, and moving is one of those. And it's understandable. But for me, when I first got married, for the next sequential part of my life, we moved 12 times in 10 years.
Oh, what?
And I had children at the time, too. So I learned a great deal, many life lessons. And we were out of town, and so I was on my own. So I learned a lot then. And then in 2008, I went to work for Fox Run at Orchard Park, which is a continuing care retirement community. But I went to work before they were open as their marketing manager, and then once they sold enough units to open, I became their moving coordinator. But we had to move everybody. We had large groups of people to move in at one time. So we split them in 2, and we put one group of about 40 people to move in within a 2-week time period, and then the other group of about 40 or 50 people to move in another group. And it was the most truly rewarding experience, one of the most of my life, because those people were doing exactly what you said, downsizing. Some of them had lived in their house for 50 years. Some of them had just moved into an apartment trying to figure out what to do. They were all different scenarios, but all of them had the same complex concerns about how do I go from where I live into a 1-bedroom studio, 2-bedroom apartment, basically, at Fox Run. Some of them had patio homes, but for the most part, they were in apartments. And it's a puzzle. It's like a jigsaw puzzle.
Well, that's a good way to put it. And I think there's so many factors involved, but when you're moving, but a lot of them are psychological. When you mentioned memories, I think that is one of the biggest I don't know if you'd say drawbacks, but focus is how do you decide what is a memory and what you have to take with you, or what you should take with you, and what you can part with. That's the issue, right?
Right. And the first thing is the frame of your puzzle. And the framework of the puzzle is where you're going. because that's square footage. That's the reality of where you're going. And so you've got the great big huge buffet from Grandma Jean that's larger than any room you're moving into. Regardless of how much you love it, you can't take it. And so those are conversations you have to work up to and work through as you look at where the person lives and then where they're going and what they really, really care about. And that becomes a really interesting process, because what I tend to do is give them three groupings. What you absolutely have to keep, what you want to give away because it's wonderful but you know you can't take it, and then what you want to donate. And every item we go to, we give them one of those three piles. And if they really can't decide, we set it to the side for now. Because forcing someone to make those decisions will end up making the move an unhappy one. And that's the last thing you want. You want someone to be able to go forward, even though they're sad about leaving the place they've lived, especially if they've been there a long time. You want them to look forward to this new space and place. And forcing them to make decisions is not the way to do that.
So there's so much psychology involved, isn't there? I mean, I feel like you're a psychologist as well as a decorator or whatever,
well,
right?
I think first of all, I'm Irish, and we're connected in so many ways, mind, body, and soul. We believe in all those things. And secondly, I've been there. I've moved when I was young. I moved 12 times in 10 years when I first got married. So I understand the stresses of it. And I didn't have family around me. I was doing it on my own with 2 young children. So I have compassion for anyone who's moving in any circumstance. But a lot of times, especially in our community, we're looking at people who are having to leave their home or someplace they've been long enough that it's home, and then go to someplace that's totally new, usually smaller, and not what they're used to. And we are creatures, all of us are creatures of habit. Don't change my routine. Please don't change my routine. So you give them the things that are really important to them so that they feel like there's still routine around them, even though the setting has changed.
But that's what's important, so that you said you feel comfortable. You feel like you probably need to keep a few items that make you feel that have warm memories attached to them, maybe.
Exactly. And you referenced Mike Bellani. Mike and I have known each other for, I think, 10 years now. And he won't mind me saying this because he talks about it all the time. He has a traumatic brain injury from a terrible bicycle accident he had almost 30 years ago now. But the thing is, that prevents Mike, even though he's capable and he does a great job and he's still out there doing business and in the community, there are still certain things that are hard for him to manage mentally. And the moving process was one of those things, because it's just a lot. There are a lot of complexities to moving and downsizing. And so we worked through all those things, and it was a good learning lesson for me because, for example, we went through his kitchen and we did the, keep, donate, and give away. And we had boxes. And I would pull it out and I'd say, keep, give away, or donate. And he pretty much could tell me, but when he couldn't, okay, we're going to set that to the side for now. Don't force anybody. That's the worst thing in the world. No one likes to be forced.
Right. I think there's a lot, not just psychology of the person that's moving, but a lot of times there's family involved that get involved and that have, right? You're smiling, I guess. Yeah, I guess a lot of times family have something to say about it, right?
But I will tell you that for the most part, especially if the family's younger than the person moving, let's put it that way, they're pretty relieved when I show up. Because they can't. It's like anything else. You can't work with your own parents or your own children. You can, but it's a challenge. When a third party that you've talked to and you believe you can trust comes in and takes that responsibility from you, off your shoulders onto yours, the family's usually pretty much like, thank you, Lord, because this is going to be so much easier. And, of course, there are things that have value, antiques, memorabilia, things like that, that they're non-negotiables. Anything like jewelry, artwork, those things come with the person or go to other members of the family. And those are things that you have to discuss when someone hires you, especially if it's the children or relatives hiring you for someone, right?
Right, which could happen, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
When the person's not there. And another thing is when there's diversity among the family too. I mean, I know examples, and I'm sure you do too, where mom said I'm going to have that, or mom said that belongs to me, or dad always wanted me to have that, or
right.
That kind of thing.
Right. It's hard. that's the other advice I give people when we're doing this. If you have things that are of value, talk to your family now. Decide what people would like, because that's the joy of having those possessions, is that after you're no longer here, your family has the thing that they really valued out of all the things that you had, instead of fighting over it after the fact. And, that's another whole conversation. But it comes into play when you talk about moving and downsizing. So it just depends. You could be a young person moving from a small apartment into a big house. You've bought your first house. Whether you're single or whether you're married or living with someone, that can be challenging too, because you're not sure. You don't want it to look like your mom and dad's house. You want it to look like you. And so that becomes a conversation of, okay, who are you? What do you like? Not what do you think people should see in your house, but what do you like? And I think that's the most fun, because then you really start to create, it's not a house and it's not a living space, it's a home. And that's always my goal. So at the end of the day, but I always tell people too, it can take up to 5 years for you to really feel like it's home, because it's a major life adjustment. So if you get down the road and you're not happy in your place, even though you chose it, that's okay. That's normal. It will get better the longer you're there, the longer you settle into your routines there and feel comfortable with your surroundings. And I think that's really important to acknowledge as well, because if we say, oh, you're going to move in here and it's going to be great, maybe not so much. I came from a home, my last move, that I loved. I lived there longer than any place in my life, and I left freely, but I still miss it. And I've been in my condo now for 10 years, and it's only been the last 2 years that I've really liked it. Nothing to do with the location. It's beautiful. The house, the condo is beautiful. I just left a lot of me behind, and I needed time for it to catch up.
I think that's probably common. You're describing me too. I lived in a beautiful old home in North Buffalo for like 25 or more years. So I miss it like all the time. I keep thinking, oh, when I lived on Meadow Road, blah blah blah. I had this, I had that. We did this.
Exactly.
The memories, of course, are. When you're younger, somehow the memories always look better in hindsight, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
All the work you had to do to keep up that house and the things that broke and,
right,
all those things, right?
Yes.
So, yeah,
yes.
But memories are a big part of moving, no doubt about it. And you need to be able to preserve those in whatever way works for you personally. And that's a conversation. You have to be willing to listen to people when they're moving, because they'll tell you if you give them the opportunity.
And another thing you just mentioned, which I think is important, is that you have to be positive or look at the new. What do you want your new surroundings to be like?
Exactly. When I left my big house, I had a ton of artwork. And I'm not saying it was, gallery artwork, but it was all kinds of artworks, posters and things people had signed and like that. And I've got 1,000 square feet. I'd gone from 3,600 to 1,000 square feet. But I still have a lot stored in the basement, but there were some things that I just didn't want to be without. So I have a hallway. We hung everything in the hallway. So now every time I walk in and out, I'm reminded of all the goodness that I've collected over the years. There's always ways. You just have to be willing to be creative and not be afraid to do something different than you've seen in someone else's house. This is your house. You want to I hung a framed poster on the back of the door leading into my condo the other day because I love it and I want to see it every day. I don't care if nobody, I've been called crazy for a long time, and I don't really mind it because I like to do those things.
Well, that has to be individualized, what you're saying, and I think that's a part of what you do, which is important, is each individual has certain needs, desires, memories, history, and you want to preserve it as much as you can and find, like you just said, a way that you can't keep everything you own. It's not possible. So you have to make these decisions, and a lot of them is based on emotion.
Yes. Another way I understand that fully is on the farm I lived in for 20 years. There was a huge barn with a second floor that was all floored, so you could use it for storage. And my brother-in-law and sister-in-law owned a wonderful restaurant in Vermont. It was written up in the New York Times and in travel magazines. It was fabulous. But there came a time when they had to close it, and they were heartbroken because it was their dream. So I said, all right, pack it up, bring it here, and put it in the barn. And they did for 20 years. I said, you can leave it as long as you want, but when you decide what you want to do with it, and because it was stored at my place, they never had to make a decision. And then when I moved, I said, you got to come. It's been 20 years, you're going to have to decide. And we did exactly that. give away, keep, or donate. And we had a big sale for everything at that farm, but it took them 20 years to be able to go through their things. So I don't care who you are. There's always going to be some memory that's so important to you and sometimes almost impossible to give away. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah. I know. I sometimes, what am I going to do without this? But also, a lot of it has to do with what may seem like a treasure. You're looking at something, and the person says, I love this. It's been in my family for generations. And you know that monetarily it's worth nothing.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
People exaggerate, I think, the value, the
Yes.
economic value or the monetary value of things that they have.
But I will tell you also, because I was going from 3,400 square feet to 1,000 when I made my last move, I had a big estate sale. It was a 3-day deal, and I did not stay for any of it because that was over and above my capacity at the moment. But I still get notes and posts on social media of people who went specifically because I wrote a book about the house that I lived in, and so a lot of people knew about it, and they came to buy something from the sale. And they'll tell me now, I bought some of the frogs that were in your garden, and I love them, and thank you so much. And, that's when you know, okay, it was a good thing that I sold those things because I have no space for them, and people are enjoying them, and you have to kind of look at it that way, too. Like, they're continuing to bring joy to the world in some way.
We had a piano, a grand piano, that was in the family for many years. That had come from my husband's family, and wherever we moved to, we brought it from Lewiston to when we first married. We brought it to our big house on Meadow Road in North Buffalo, and then and nobody played the piano anymore. Nobody played. Anybody.
But it was a gorgeous knick-knack.
So anyway, we when we had the estate sale, we sold the piano and the piano bench and everything. And about at least 5 years later, I got a call from somebody and said, we bought the piano and your piano bench from your house on your estate sale. And in the piano bench, we found music, paper music and various notes and music, and we wanted to know if you wanted it. It was actually, I think my daughter took piano lessons for a minute. I mean, I can't even remember, but it was hers. Oh. So they returned it. We met and we returned it. So I know it was really funny. I just want to interrupt for a moment in case you just tuned in. You are listening to On Target with your host, Penny Wolfgang. And our guest today is well-known author Christina M. Apt, who is also the president of a company called The Next Chapter. And The Next Chapter does not refer to a chapter in the book. It refers to a chapter in your life, right?
Correct.
Moving you and your memories with care. I just wanted to ask you a little bit about, because when we're talking about Michael, not only do you help people to move and to move their memories and to get settled in a new house, but you actually, according to Michael, will help them find new things that they need as well. That's important too.
Exactly, and it's a joy. I mean, who doesn't love to shop? Let's just put that out there.
Yeah, that sounds like fun to me.
But the point being that it can be as overwhelming as it is to move and leave things, decide what you're going to bring and not. There's always new things that you need because it's a different living space. And most people are just overwhelmed. They just look at the space and go, I have no idea. I've lived in a lot of houses and in New York, in Toronto, in Vancouver, and here in Buffalo. So I've lived in a lot of different styles of homes and with very different architecture and also with different decorating ideals. The Canadians are very different in the way they do their houses and very different in Vancouver than they do in Toronto, right? So I've seen a lot, and I'd love, if I could start over, I think I would probably want to be an interior designer because I love it, or a garden person, either one. But it's all the same thing. It's
both
textures.
Both of them are creative, Christina.
And they're textures and colors and designs, right? So I think that what I do is it's no different than when I will write a book for someone. When I ghostwrite a book for someone, I sit down and interview them so I can hear their voice as they tell their story. I'll sit down with someone in their new home and have them tell me what they like, what they don't like, and then have them show me what is already in their home that they really love. And then try to recreate or bring new things, sometimes things that go along with it, but sometimes I'll throw in something that's a little different, because I think one of the things about moving is it gives us permission to kind of reinvent ourselves if you want to. If you don't, then we stay in that place. And I'll tell you a great story about Mike. If you don't know Mike, he is from a very Italian and very religious family. And they're wonderful people, and I respect them all for the way that they carry on with their family connections and their faith. But Mike's dining room, we made light. Everything is light. He lives in a condo that's surrounded by big windows, so there's lots of light. So we did light-colored furniture. He had come from all dark, heavy 1970s, 80s kind of stuff, and he wanted to change, so that was great. So we did that, and then I started pulling stuff out, and he had this whole collection of seashells. And then he had this beautiful, like green, almost like sea glass bowl, big bowl. So we arranged all the seashells in this bowl and put it in the table as his centerpiece. And then he had some pieces of art that he'd gotten from the beach in Florida that somebody had painted. All right, so here's, Mike, this is what we're going to do in this room. We're going to make it feel, beachy in a way and fun for you because you love going down to Florida. I come back a week later, and on the one blank wall are pictures of the Last Supper. And if you're not Catholic, that's a very religious thing that happened in the Catholic faith with, the Lord Jesus and his 12 apostles. And I'm like, Mike, what's this? And he goes, don't you love it? And that's the moment when you have to say, it's so you, Mike. It's just what it should be. Yeah. And he said, I'm going to hang some more up there. And he does. He has a whole collection of the Last Supper. And on the other wall is all this beach stuff. So it doesn't matter whether it matches or not, or whether it's decoratively appropriate. It matters what the person lives there
Whatever
likes.
Makes you happy.
Correct.
Right?
If it brings you joy, then we're going to do it, even if I think, I would never do that. But that's okay. It's not about me. It's about them.
Christina, I don't want to leave without talking to you. There's so much to talk about. We have to do more than
I can come back.
Okay.
I'm inviting myself. How is
Kevin,
that?
And we will. But I have a book in front of me, The Secret Sand Circle. By you. And I wanted to know, and you said it's a new book. So.
It's brand new. We launched it in November.
Okay.
It's a book that's based, it's a psychological suspenseful novel. It's about a psychologist here in Buffalo, New York, and she's different. She will push the envelope of her profession to help her patients, and she does it in ways that are remarkable, including creating something called the Secret Sand Circle, which is a big circle of sand that patients go into and write or use stones with words on them to tell their secrets of abuse or trauma, and then rake it all away, in effect telling without the pressure or the shame or the worry of telling another person, right? So this psychologist, her name is Jo, and she's remarkable. And so you meet her, and as you meet her, she's at a retreat writing a book about 5 of her patients that most fully impacted her career. She's been a psychologist for 10 years. So you get to watch her do that or witness her do that, but she reveals to you her 5 patients as she's treated them along the way. They're all ages, all genders, and all backgrounds, ethnicities. And so those two stories blend together. She's writing about them, you're learning about them. But as she continues to write, her writing only takes place in the book over one 24-hour day, right? It's only revealed to you that way. And the longer you get into that day, the more you realize there's something more going on here.
Now, this is all figments of your brilliant imagination, or is this based on a real person?
Well, no, it's a novel, but it's based on 3 years of research that I did myself. It's based on my personal experience with people I know that have been in situations of trauma and abuse. It's based on work. I collaborated with the Erie County Commissioner of Social Services, Karen Rabicki, the Erie County Commissioner of Mental Health, Sarah Bonk, who was a huge help, and then local psychologist that is well-respected, Kathy Calabrese. And she's been in the business for over 40 years. And she was so great on this book that at the end, she let me read it to her out loud, 92,000 words, to make sure that every detail was what it should be.
So what happens is, as with all good novels, there's a kernel of truth somewhere in them, right? And that you, the reader, have to find.
Yes.
Right?
And I will tell you that 5-star reviews without fail and people thanking me for writing it, and I'm very excited because I have UB is sponsoring an event for this book. Because $1 from the sale of every book goes to NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness of Buffalo and Western New York. And when I go on the road, I give another $1 to the NAMI in that community where I'm appearing. So, there's a lot of goodness in this book, and it's helping. There are instances of people having not only mental but physical ailments that this book, things I researched and wrote about in this book, have helped them, and they've taken to their doctors.
Well, now, everything you do is so rewarding, whether it's helping people move,
I'm grateful,
or keep their memories, or writing a book, a wonderful book. Let me just tell everybody where they can. We don't have time to talk about all the accomplishments of our guest, Christina.
You're very kind.
Apt, but if you go online, you can find her at somewhere. She'll tell you.
ChristinaApt.com, and it's really simple. It's just my first name, but there's an A at the end of Christina, and there's an A at the beginning of Apt. So you have to make sure there's two A's, ChristinaApt.com. It's pretty well known. I mean, you won't have a problem finding it.
No.
And my books are all there. You can order them through the website. If you want to talk to me about the next chapter, moving, there's a contact me page on my website. Just write to me, and I'll get back to you, and we'll talk. And, if I can help you, that would be my honor.
And believe me, if anybody can help you, it's our guest, Christina. Thanks so much. Look how much she's helped us today on Target. Thank you so much. And we appreciate you. And you, our listeners, of course. We look forward to being with you again next week. Same time, same station. Have a really good week. Bye now.
You've been listening to On Target with Penny Wolfgang, a program that takes an inside look at Western New York and our community. If you have any comments or suggestions, please write to Penny Wolfgang at 500 Corporate Parkway, Suite 200, Amherst, New York, 14226.